Welcome along. Sugden Road is our venue, and we move from the EHL Women's Premier Division finals of 2024, or in fact, of course, the semi-finals of 2024. We're in the women's section. We now know that Surbiton and Hampstead and Westminster will participate in tomorrow's final. Surbiton looking to regain the crown that they lost cruelly to East Grinstead last year. Hampstead and Westminster there for the first time. And in the men's semi-final, the first one of the day, starting at 3:30 p.m. local time in southwest London, it is Surbiton and Hampstead and Westminster that come to the fore, but at the semi-final stage. Surbiton, well, what do they hold? An 8-2 aggregate lead this season against Hampstead and Westminster. They kept them to a clean sheet on the 9th of March, winning 3-0. Surbiton, they go into this favourites in the first semi-final. Let's just run through for you the starting 11s for Surbiton. The fantastic James Mazzarello, Great Britain goalkeeper. Luke Taylor, former international player, wears 3. Also starting Johnny Gall, number 7, returning to club hockey this season after stepping away. The captain, Tim Nurse, number 8 for Surbiton. Nick Park starts as well, wearing 10. Struan Walker, Scotland and Great Britain international, wears 13. One of the top scorers in the league so far. Louis Gittins, number 14, starts. Stuart Rushmere, midfielder, wears 17. Adam Buckle wears 21. Connor Williamson, who scored that sensational shootout goal in the semi-final of the Euro Hockey Championships, will wear 27. And the third most prolific goal scorer of 2022 in the world, Gareth Furlong, will wear 28 for Surbiton. For Hampstead and Westminster, in goal is Welsh goalkeeper Toby Reynolds-Cottrell. Their number 5 is James Oates. Mark Edwards wears 6. Tim Cross, the Australian-Irish player, wears 7. Dale Hutchinson wears 11. Also starting captain Sam French in 12. Matthew Geis-Brown, the South African international, wears 13. A good drag flicker, very, very effective. Jolyon Morgan starts in 15. Toby Vaughan in 17. James Sutcliffe, 24. And Kai Kepler will wear 25, the American, for Andrew Wilson's team. For Surbiton, of course, they're coached by the fabulous former player and now head coach of Surbiton, Mark Pern.
You bring so much experience to both indoor and outdoor finals. Obviously 3 titles so far with Surbiton. As a coach in this environment, what would you say is the standout key thing about these 2-day competitions?
It's going to sound really obvious, but I think for me, I always try to reiterate to the players that they don't need to do more than they've already given, and just focus on what their skill sets are. Sometimes you get players saying, I've got to do more, I've got to carry the ball more, I've got to make bigger passes, and I just think as long as you keep the playing group focused on their strengths, on what made them successful all season, if you come through the 2 games and cope with those moments of adversity and trust in yourselves, then I think you're in a good place.
And your opposition this afternoon, Hampstead and Westminster, you've played them twice, 10 goals in the 2 games, of which 8 have come from penalty corners. Do you see that as being the deciding factor this afternoon?
Possibly. I mean, the first game was the first game of the season, and we had very different teams, so we sort of discounted that one really. The last game was 3-0. We played really, really well. And created lots of field goal chances, but actually we had some very good strength in our corner routine, so it may come down to that. They've obviously got a fantastic corner flicker themselves in Matt Rees-Brown. We haven't given them a corner in those 2 games, so whether that's got a bearing how we defend and how we not give away corners, but we've also got a fantastic corner defence as well. So like any hockey game, I wouldn't be surprised if a corner won it here or there today.
Lovely. Thanks, Mark, and good luck this afternoon and for tomorrow.
Thank you.
So Mark, assistant coach at Hampstead, your first season as part of the coaching setup and a top 4 finish. Is that a fair reflection of the season so far?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think at the start of the season we lost a couple of key players with Jacob and Will leaving us. We recruited really well, which was great. And for us, to come here in the top 4 is really a massive step forward in terms of our development as a squad. I've been really impressed with what Andrew, our head coach, has brought us with his experience with Spain. So tactically, we go into every game, knowing exactly what the opposition is going to give us, but we know what our strengths are and we try to play to those as best we possibly can.
So this afternoon's opponents, Surbiton, you will obviously start as underdogs. Is that the way you'd like to see it?
Yeah, I think so. I think my career, most clubs I've played at, we've always been the underdogs, and I think here at Hampstead we've proven over the years actually these one-off games we're exceptionally good at that. We've got a huge corner threat with Matt, and we've got a very tight-knit group of players that are physical, will work hard for each other. So we always want to get ourselves into these semi-finals and finals where lots of teams will write us off. But I'm extremely confident today that we'll get the job done here, which will be fantastic in front of obviously the home crowd at Surbiton.
Mark, thanks very much for your time. Good luck this afternoon and all the best for tomorrow as well.
Thank you very much.
Welcome along to the action as we head to the first semi-final in the men's competition. Of course, let's just take you back to last season where Old Georgians won the title. They're looking to go back-to-back. They won the indoor championships, of course, up in Derby this year. They became the EHL bronze medalists, beating the famous, the infamous Rot-Weiss Köln in the bronze medal match, helping out English hockey in the men's division, because it now means, with the quality of English teams in this year's Euro Hockey League, that English men's teams have three spaces in next year's EHL. Hampstead and Westminster looking to have a great semi-final here. They've lost 5-2 and 3-0 to Surbiton. Andy Halliday alongside me, Dan Strange. Surbiton, Andy, we know their qualities. They've got quality oozing through their squad. But there's also a very expectant crowd waiting here at Sugden Road, who I think were rather flat in the women's game, almost expecting a Surbiton win. Do you think it will be the same here? Or do you think we're going to hear a bit more boisterousness coming from the crowd?
I think there might be an impact of the bar having been open now for 3 or 4 hours as well. So my guess is that things might be a little more raucous than maybe they were in the last game. But yeah, I mean, you chat, just being around the club today and talking to some of the club members and the club president, and there is this expectancy about, not just about here, but being in Europe. They feel that it's their place. Mark Pern, coach, 3 times winners around 2017 to 2019. They want to be back. They want that mantle back. And whilst I appreciate, the medals are going to be handed out tomorrow, this game, the winners will go into Europe next year. And I think that means a heck of a lot.
Of course, he played in a very successful Reading side in Europe back in the early 2003 it was. Simon Mason involved in that team as well. Colin Cooper, seen him on the Wimbledon bench. I said hello to Colin earlier on, as Nick Bennett and Dan Barstow, 2 exceptional umpires, lead these 2 teams out in the red and dark blue Hampstead and Westminster, and in the all white and green, the home club from Surbiton. Surbiton finished first in Pool B, playing 3, winning just 1, but 2 winning draws to take 7 points. Wimbledon finished in second in Pool B, ahead of Southgate and Oxted, whose participation in the competition ended in the finals pool stages. Old Georgians top Pool A, Hampstead and Westminster, 2 wins from 3 in the competition, took second in Pool A. So that is how they got here in the top 6. Of course, Surbiton finished second. Hampstead and Westminster finished 5th. And of course, the one name not in the top 4 that you would have expected if you went purely on form from the top 6, with some very good players in it, the likes of Ollie Payne, who I've seen here today already. Holcomb, not here, not invited.
And interestingly, as you mentioned that, talking about Ollie Payne, currently arguably Great Britain's #1 goalkeeper as we look towards the summer. But here you have the #2 and the #3 against each other. Toby Reynolds-Cottrell at one end and James Mazzarello the other. And I feel that the way that this game, the way the teams are going to set up, penalty corners I think are going to be really important. These 2 teams have met each other twice already through this league season. The 10 goals that were scored in those games, 8 came from penalty corners. So I think it's really important that we're going to see 2 very, very good goalkeepers at the top of the game. Will we see two corner routines to match? And
you mentioned Toby Reynolds-Cottrell. Of course, he had the benefit, plays for Wales. They made it to the World Cup. Haven't they improved as a as a hockey playing nation, as a team, really getting better and better all the time under Danny Newcombe, who really has such a performance mentality. Of course, works at Premier League football, I believe, Danny Newcombe nowadays. And Reynolds Cottrell at the World Cup, I thought played really well. Then got the opportunity for Great Britain last summer in the Pro League, stepped up again, played well. And how good is that for a coaching team? You've been in and around those management teams. Almost if you're leaving out a player of that ilk, it tells you a lot about the squad.
It does. And the interesting thing about Toby Reynolds Cottrell is that he was part of an England indoor team that I took to the European Cup back in 2018. Originally his colours were, he was an English goalkeeper. But I think, it's probably not fair to say he saw the writing on the wall, but competition of places at that point with the likes of George Pinner, who we're going to see a little bit later, James Bailey, it was always going to be difficult. So, he chose this path, and look at where it's got him.
I think for the overall view of British hockey, and I know we're here at the English Hockey League Premier Division finals, but as you said there, players taking their chances, using the fact that maybe they weren't born in Wales or born in Scotland, but strengthening and improving those programmes, offering bigger player depth. And it's shown, look at Scotland at the last Commonwealth Games, that 5-5 draw with New Zealand. Was it 5-1 up, weren't they, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, yes.
Look at, we're going to see Lee Morton later, potentially one of the most skillful players in the Great Britain setup as James Oates, of course it's Oates, who still relatively inexperienced at international level, James Oates, when you look at his statistics. But for me, one of the first names down on the squad list because he offers that real combative nature through midfield.
He does. He's a proper athlete, and you look at him, the way he moves around the pitch, his strength as well. I think it's a really exciting time for British hockey with the men. A lot of people, I think, are very quietly confident about what our men's team can do at the Olympics in Paris in a few months' time. And we are fortunate that over this next 24 hours, 26 hours or so, we are going to see we've got all that quality here in front of us.
Hutchinson plays it forward. Here is Oates. I said about the driving, menacing runs, combative nature. Scored a beautiful goal in the Pro League against New Zealand, his first international goal. I think his only international goal, in fact, as Dan Barstow, who was at the last World Cup in 2023. In India, blows his whistle, the teacher.
As a defender, I'm pleased there that the whistle went, because I'm not sure Nick Bennett saw that foot, but looking for that advantage as a defender playing out of there. Luke Taylor under pressure from red shirts.
Delighted to hear that there's a sway towards the forwards in the commentary box this weekend. Andy Halliday having to fight his corner for once.
Just said I was a defender.
Yeah.
Well, it makes a change because normally we're full of goalkeepers, aren't we?
It's odd for a goalkeeper to be noisy.
Goalkeepers.
As the ball's moved on quickly by Luke Taylor.
Hampstead, interesting. Hampstead and Westminster, the way they've set their press up, sitting deep, just looking, Mark Edwards there, just looking out to split the game, try and split the game once they've gone one side.
I must say, I much prefer the men's team's shirt numbers. Nice and bright and colourful, easy to see, distinct.
Yes, they are.
Standing out against their red and blue kit, where the women's team had almost the same colours as their numbers on the back of the shirt. Makes it rather difficult to pick up.
It's only the commentators and the media that make those sorts of comments.
Clash with kit designers constantly. Well, good power through the midfield as Gareth Furlong stepped in front, stepping into, of course, the Great Britain set up full time at the moment. So an important weekend for him. With the likes of Paul Revington pitch side, just saw him wander off with Mark Hickman to watch the game. Not up on the bank as David Ralph did earlier, but not on the bank that we saw, which would currently be behind James Mazzarello's goal.
Knowing them as I do, I mean, David Ralph pitched up in a fairly bright yellow sweatshirt. I think Revs might be a little bit more undercover.
A subtle blue,
yeah,
and a pair of jeans. Revs isn't standing out today.
We'll try and spot him before the end of the game.
Tim Cross, part of that successful Irish qualifying group from Valencia, then went on to India for a long tour out there to the Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar. And of course, Sabir Samunda, Cross, who has a handful of Australian caps, to add to the caps for Ireland. Over 50 international caps now. Was brought into the Irish programme by Alex Cox, the former Irish coach who has been involved with the likes of Amsterdam more recently and Kampong.
From Bursamunda to Surbiton. Now there's a journey.
Yeah, bit of a different infrastructure, but equally special places to play in the world, and that's what makes the sport so great. And there are some fabulous places to play hockey around the world.
It's interesting. There's often discussion around these finals and where they're held, and the intimacy of a club setting versus Lee Valley. And whilst obviously it's our Olympic legacy venue, you know, when you come to a club, when you look, it is intimate. The crowds are on top of you. There's that sort of hubbub that you can hear around the ground.
You would rather a packed, intimate, noisy, bubbly, bar open type environment for a club finals potentially than a 1,500 people slightly rattling around Lee Valley. And Lee Valley is a brilliant venue when it's full and when it's busy. But this, like you say, it just has a bit more of that club vibe, but it's right at its heart of everything that's going on this weekend. And Surbiton really putting on a very good show in between matches. Just that time for hockey friends to catch up.
Yeah,
Lovely
I think
lead.
you were saying, Dan, about you take when you're at these sorts of events, you take a walk over to the clubhouse and you're stopped 10, 15 times by people that you know to chat about hockey. It's a great setting.
So another co-commentator I work with, Emily Defrond, was over enjoying the sunshine. Looking forward apparently to Fulham West Ham tomorrow. And I reminded her
West Ham were this weekend.
Reminded her of my Fulham allegiance and how I'd be hoping for 3 points to be going to the west of London, not the east. Lovely ball forward from Connor Williamson. Moves it on to Farrington. Clever ball inside. Rushmere wins the penalty corner. And now we get some noise from the Surbiton fans.
And on the pitch, you can hear celebrating every success this Surbiton team. Interesting whether it's a telling factor. Brendan Creed has played 2 absolutely spot-on pinpoint aerials. And a third one there. And Farrington able to cause a little bit of mayhem in the Hampstead and Westminster circle. Creed, the first penalty corner of the game. Creed, of course, was uncertain as to whether he'd make the cut this weekend, as was number 22 on the pitch, Alex Williams. Williams has played for both Oxford clubs, Oxford Hockey Club, which was formerly Rover Oxford, who his mum played for, and then Oxford Hawks as well, who his sister now plays for in the second team. Oxford Hawks. Once it comes to the top of the circle. Down low, beautifully finished. What a goal that is. And Surbiton are into a 1-0 lead. Expertly taken. Well rehearsed, well planned move, and the special finish. Just the way that Rushmere, you have to time that run to perfection. So you've actually got to meet the ball at the right point. And so often you see those passes, that drag flick from Luke Taylor that goes flat, that either goes behind the runner or in front of the runner or hits the defender. That was a perfect execution. And we said, didn't we, penalty corners. How important are they going to be in this game? First one, first blood to Surbiton. It's brilliantly testing as a commentator. We don't have replays today. We might be showing some on the stream, but we don't have them in front of us. So you literally have to pick the goal scorer. First time of asking, and Rushmere did brilliantly there. Struan Walker, that distinctive style of his, but also the helpful headband. And he scored some lovely goals out in Argentina on his first appearances in Great Britain's colours. And again, that's another discussion around where we are with our penalty corner specialists, with Nick Banderak and Sam Ward and Gareth Furlong coming into the equation. I mentioned that Furlong, not too long ago, was the third highest scorer in world hockey. Govers and Harmonpreet above him. But then you look at the stats, and I have this season, the stats on Ward and Banderak, and I tell you what, they might not be literally 1 and 2 as a pair in the world, but they're not far off at all. And Sam Ward's form, blimey, before his time out with injury. Kepler
Oh, now that was really nasty, and Brendan Creed has just worn that. Not sure what Kepler was thinking there, looking for the squarial on the run, and just played it straight into his face. Brendan Creed made a tough stuff. Dan Barstow goes across and says, "You okay?"
Big smiles. I think there was a glance off the bob, I reckon.
Yeah,
It was
clipped his ear onto the top
bob.
knot, wasn't it?
No harm done. But yeah, no. I every game, Dan, you come out with a fact, and I stand back and go, whew. And that was the one for this game. Gareth Furlong, third highest scorer. I mean that is outstanding. Also being amongst those, was it Kieran Govers?
Govers and Harmonpreet, yeah.
Blake Govers and Harmonpreet.
Sorry, Blake Govers, yeah. Kieran would love it
if still playing.
Still playing in 2022.
But no, I mean that's esteemed company.
Yeah, 22 goals in 14 games, and it was only Blake and Harmonpreet were above him. Hasn't quite matched that since then, but he now 148 caps, 95 goals. Very, very good return in the international game.
Yeah.
Cross bounces the ball down the line, just drifts away and into Surbiton possession once more. They find themselves 1-0 to the good as it clips off the boot of young Jack Hobkirk. Well, in fact, it's come off the boot of the Hampstead and Westminster player, excuse me. Hobkirk.
Yes, Jack Hobkirk, one of the Surbiton youngsters to keep an eye open for. Interesting, a very ungainly running style, but one of the stars of the future.
Of course, Old Georgians won't be able to call upon a player we mentioned earlier who has been working so well in tandem when he's on the pitch, especially in tandem with Nick Bandrak, Sam Ward. Ward currently rehabbing from an injury, but blimey was his form good. Out in Argentina and out in Oman as well, just after at the Olympic qualifiers, scoring goals galore and just proving how dangerous he can be when Great Britain put a couple of options off the top.
And great to see him running again, doing some drills at Bisham this week.
Yeah, his first time running was, what was it, middle of the week, wasn't it? Wednesday, I think. As Hampstead and Westminster find themselves 1-0 down here at Stuart Rushmere goal, which was timed on 8 minutes from the first penalty corner of the game. James Mazzarello's had a quiet time as Connor Williamson, talking about exceptional youngsters. Think back to his shootout goal in the semi-finals of the Euro Hockey Championships of last year, as Mazzarello exaggerates the step over. And I'm going to admit something here, Andy. When I saw Williamson step forward, I was watching at home, and I may have said out loud, "Why is Williamson stepping forward?" And then he went off to the left-hand side and did what he did. It was an exceptional goal as Park comes through. And Ames as well with an absolute ripper of a slap. Lovely pick up and drive.
Yeah, I think it says something about the attitude of the modern day international player, the way they, I remember going back over the years, there were folk that would actively step back when you needed somebody to step forward.
Beautiful ball.
But now it seems that a lot of these young players, Connor Williamson being one, he will step forward into the breach. What's the issue? Well, I don't feel pressure.
And that was the point I was making at the time, was he's so fresh into the team. To step up against Germany in a Euro Hockey semi-final in Germany, pressure on him and Mönchengladbach, and not just step up but finish it in the way he did. I mean, with Ames, of course, being the captain, different type of pressure and different type of responsibility potentially, and his heart would have been in his mouth as the ball crunched in off the post.
Yeah, I think much of that is to do with the way that Paul Revington has now sets training up, sets the approach, the intensity of and the level of intensity in the training is like nothing before. These players, they come off. You talk to them and they say that we just work so hard, so hard in these pitch sessions, and I think when you do that, I think that creates almost a an environment where people are really happy to just take responsibility.
Park ball forward, finds Walker, who almost ungainly, but he turned well into the circle. He goes. Good save. Back it comes. Reynolds Cottrell back on his heels, but he won't care as he keeps the ball out.
Yeah, there was I mean, seemed very, very off balance. Looked like he made that save with the left glove, and then, as you say, was very quick back up. You mentioned Mark Hickman, the Great Britain goalkeeping coach, who's here watching Miriam Pritchard earlier on in the day, and he's got both keepers we've mentioned, James Mazzarello and others who were in action over the weekend.
Over the shoulder and out to play past Johnny Gall, who I believe hasn't committed to whether he will continue in club hockey next season after making a comeback, having retired previously.
Yeah, he's coaches hockey down at Surbiton School, and I took our Framlingham team down there earlier in the season. He was saying how much he was enjoying playing with the Surbiton first team of old that were now the Surbiton second team, and here he is in another national final.
Vaughan loses possession. Chance for Williamson to break away. 1-0 Surbiton with 20 seconds left on the clock in the first, and a great chance here for Surbiton to double that lead. Williamson finds Walker. Play on, says Dan Barstow. French can break away with 9 seconds left. End-to-end stuff to end the first quarter. That's clever. That's calm by Buddle.
It was. What was also very clever in that last attack was the run from Rushmere, who took the defence completely away, creating that space in behind, the leading of that forward player to create the opportunity behind and the carry into the circle there. Often that sort of running it goes without praise, and it's unseen, but really intelligent from Stuart Rushmere. I guess I feel there's a little bit of cat and mouse about this game. I appreciate that Surbiton have got ahead with a really well worked penalty corner, but you feel there's a lot of respect out there, and currently, do you think it should be on as even, Dan?
I was going to say, this is one of those games where, not necessarily at the moment, but I do think Hampstead and Westminster have started to look threatening. I think the crucial player for that, well, two crucial players then. One is Reynolds Cottrell, who we've mentioned, because he could come under a lot of pressure. The other one, and we've mentioned him already, is James Oates, and how he from midfield, can Surbiton contain those dominant Lily Owsley-esque barraging runs of Oates. He's so difficult to slow down when he gets ahead of steam, and his influence on this game is going to be absolutely crucial. But beautifully taken penalty corner goal for Rushmere on 8 minutes, and at the moment it's the difference, and you have to score your goals, you have to take your chances.
Of course, and we said penalty corners, but also I think I mentioned it at the time, but the Surbiton have thrown 3 real quality aerials, in fact 4 real quality aerials, particularly from Brendan Creed. You know, he can throw a 50, 60 yard aerial across the pitch, and with pinpoint accuracy, and that led to Surbiton winning the penalty corner and getting scoring the first goal.
If you look back at Brendan Creed's career, and you were there right at the start, where he's got to now as a player, and okay, you know, time ages and matures all of us, but hasn't he just become this Mr. Consistent a lot of the time now, where I don't think back at the start of his career you would have ever said that about him. He was playing alongside the likes of Liam Sanford, who we'll see later on, as 2 Hampstead and Westminster players are felled at the same time with no one else around them. But the way he's matured and developed in his career, and that diving save in the final of the Euro Hockey Championship last summer, I mean, he was treading water for a lot of that race back, wasn't he? But the fact he put everything in, as Tim Nurse picks up the ball, scored in the Pro League last summer at Lee Valley. In fact, I think he scored a couple that weekend. Finds a way down the baseline, pops it across, it's dangerously in there towards Williams, who just leans down He's ending his association for the time being with Surbiton at the end of this season. Breaking news story, that one, I believe. Alex told me the other day, moving on to Royal Orry in Belgium. We wish him luck on that move.
Great little bit of defensive work there to play out, but then the way that Johnny Gall just stepped in, showing all his experience to win it back for Surbiton.
Williams in the circle. Lovely lead from Farrington there to really open up the play across Jolyon Morgan, crossing, or back stick in fact, given by Dan Barstow.
Yeah, Rob Farrington, another great exponent of the indoor game, and has been part of that Surbiton setup indoors and outdoors for some years now.
Beautifully taken down by Cross. Rushmere back on him. Nick Bennett comes across just to make sure that the player welfare is taken care of as it popped up onto Nick Parker, I believe it was. Into the circle it goes. Flashes around. Buddle takes it down under pressure. Well worked by Toby Vaughan. And Vaughan can pick up and go again. Here is Oates.
Patient build-up with Surbiton sitting quite deep in their own half. Williams, the spearhead of this, trying to split the game. So once the ball goes one side, he'll try and make sure it stays that side.
Ball across from Mark Edwards. Oh, Mazzarello down low, helped out in front of him. And again forward, Hutchinson. Mazzarello, great save.
Great direct approach that from Hampstead and Westminster.
Kepler.
Mark Edwards with that ball driven into the circle and the deflection. And Mazzarello have to bring it his best there.
Farrington just forgetting where the line is momentarily. Kepler bursting through the challenge. Then Williamson, look at the hands, look at the skill, look at the speed. Lovely, nearly lovely tackle from Samapula.
Yeah, I think that was just blown for just impeded as he went through there, but yeah, that lovely. The problem, you go across the forehand just outside the 23, get turned over, and you will get punished.
Nick Park down the line, popped back by Tim Nurse. Cross deals with it well. Apula, just awkward, but he had a lot of pressure on him from the number 7, Johnny Gall. We were having a conversation earlier with James Gall, of course, who's rehabbing from an injury at the moment, hence why he's not playing. Good to see him here enjoying his day, but getting the rehab in and the fitness work done first.
And complaining that he hadn't got a ticket for the weekend.
Complaining he hadn't got a ticket,
So he turned up in his GB kit.
Just to try and be rent-a-celeb for the day, yep.
Yeah.
Was a character. Arrow ball towards French. Buddle has had a very good game so far, steps in front and just makes sure he takes care of the ball as it came down.
Very solid. He's been very sensible with his play. Nothing, no flamboyance, just ball out on the forehand, play out down the right.
Another player to come through the Kingston Grammar School system. Lovely lead, eyes forward. Williams drops in all, gets knocked into. Well, he comes off a lot better. Cross plays it forward. Now Oates gets one of those excellent opportunities. Turns onto the forehand and flashes it across goal. Jolyon Morgan, it was the wrong side of him, just behind him.
Oates, yeah, looking at Nick Bennett there as if to say, look, do you think that was a penalty corner? Did I get much of an advantage there with the ball on the backhand? There was a little bit of a glance, but I think, as we've said before, had it gone in, there'd be no complaints.
Hopkirk, Walker. Currently sits, I think it's 3rd in the top scoring charts for the season. Struan Walker. And Barstow says, play on. Happy to see some advantage played, and then blows his whistle. Yeah, Walker, 22 goals for the season. Alan Forsyth breathing down his neck on 21. The fascinating stat on the top scorers for the men's competition. Sam Ward, 25 goals in the season, top scorer, has only played essentially half a season because he wouldn't have played after November, would he?
No, they're correct. And I remember seeing his name on the score sheet earlier in the season, scoring 4 or 5 a game. And yeah. But he's not up there with Gareth Furlong, and that's an incredible stat.
Well, he is this season.
Yeah, well.
And he scored more internationally than him.
Goals per game? What the ratio would
goals
be?
Per game, no, but not a million miles away, but more goals in his career as the ball's played forward.
He's probably claimed as many, I'd say.
Well, he's a forward. You should kick him in, put your hand up.
Well, as a team manager, when the TD comes over to you at the end of the game, says, can you just confirm who scored? And you've actually got Sam Ward in your ear saying, no, that was me, that was me, that was me. No, Brendan Creed got the that was me.
Look at Alex Herniers in Valencia against Great Britain. Kicked the ball in the goal, arms up in the air celebrating. And I don't think she'll be that bothered. I think the problem for her was they realised it, and the next day she did similar, and they went straight upstairs and checked it. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I'm in no way saying people should cheat, but sometimes, you know, you got to get your strokes of luck, haven't you? Nurse, or just claim goals of other people, as you're suggesting. As Gittins slips to the ground.
I think there's a little nudge there, which Dan Barstow spotted. It's interesting catching up with Dan Barstow, who I've known for some years since he came as a very young umpire onto the international scene, and I said, you know, how's teaching going compared, you know, to the umpiring world? And he said, teaching up in the north. I'd far rather umpire a real high-intensity game of men's hockey.
Primary school teacher,
than
isn't
go
he?
into the classroom, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he teaches year 3 or 4, I think, off the top of my head.
Quite tough.
Got a young family as well. As Nurse dances one way and then the other. Look at the speed of Tim Nurse. Capella struggling to keep pace as the ball bounces across. Reynolds Cottrell does well. Gittins collects, and he's now under pressure. Has to crab away from the circle.
Interesting, both teams being direct. You know, we haven't seen a lot of play in the circles throughout this quarter, but when the ball has gone into the circle, it's normally been a direct, fairly sort of diagonal pass coming from that, just inside the 22 from the right. Mark Edwards for Hampstead and Westminster. And that one thrown in from...
Oates runs into his own player, then gets tripped briefly by Tim Nurse. I'm sure there'll be a conversation about that one back at Bisham on Monday. Just a little bit of conversation as they run back in towards the 23, and Oates reminds him that he's about, what, 3/4 of a foot taller. Try that again, Sunshine. Cross under pressure, loses possession that time, and Brendan Creed, spotting that a few players are out of position, tries to pull a fast one about and turns around beaming, knowing that he was about 5 metres too far ahead.
Yeah, there was his chance as a defender to maraud into Hampstead and Westminster circle.
Taylor.
The interesting thing with this way Surbiton is setting up here with the interchange that they've got going from a 3 to a 4, back to a 3. You'll notice Creed has now gone infield. Johnny Gall has dropped out wide right. Great. It's great to see that interchange, and also the movement ahead of the ball as well. So creative.
What does James Gall have on the back of his shirt? Well, it can't be Gall J, otherwise it's pointless putting the letter on there. It's just a waste of money. Does he have Gall JA?
Is it?
There's suggestions he has Jammer on the back of his shirt. I can't believe that for a second.
Women's manager standing next to
an elite club like Surbiton, having Jammer on the back of a shirt. Very, not playing by nicknames. Patience again from Surbiton. Good press by the likes of Julian Morgan. Stepping forward, Surbiton taking their time. Back to Creed. Here is Johnny Gall. Looks forward.
The player will remain nameless, but there was an international game where, as the teams were lined up ready to go out onto the pitch, there were 2 number 4 shirts with Willers on the back. And the player, as I say, who will remain nameless, Ollie Willers obviously was wearing one of them. The other player had picked up the wrong shirt off the hook.
Who was it? Please tell us.
No, I'm not going to tell you. All I'm going to say is Barry Middleton spotted the mistake, looked at me, and I was apoplectic as the game was about to go live on television. The sort of thing managers really worry about. And he said, "Don't worry, Andy, we'll sort it." Barry sprinted back, missed the anthem, sprinted back to the changing room. And lo and behold, we only had one Ollie Willers on the pitch at the beginning of the game. Marvellous.
Toby Vaughan with a lovely jab tackle. That's a fabulous story. It improved the chance of Ollie Willers getting player of the match if he was represented twice on the pitch, which I'm sure now based out in the Netherlands have been pleased about. Off the pitch goes Sam Corney. Surbiton jeers from the sidelines. Met with discontent from the faithful
Breakdown
Surbiton
there.
fans. Corney, just 18 years of age, St George's College player.
Yeah, the movement here for Hampstead and Westminster sort of set in a back four. Joe Sharp ahead of in that pocket ahead, but they need to try and penetrate those passing seams.
Ball across by
that was
Joe
a chance
Sharp.
there.
Nick Bennett.
Again, that right to left from that ball played on that diagonal into the circle, but nobody on the end of it.
Surbiton there. Williamson just playing the long game, playing the ball right down into the corner. It is, of course, Surbiton 1, Hampstead and Westminster 0. If you're just joining us for the action, you may be lucky if you want to sneak down for the second half if you're nearby to Sugden Road in southwest London in Surbiton. Still got over half a game here. And of course the Old Georgians Wimbledon match as well to come. It's been a great day of action, seeing Hampstead and Westminster women take their first ever spot in a England Hockey Premier final. They will play last year's beaten finalist Surbiton, the hosts winning relatively comfortably in the end against Wimbledon. East Grinstead champions from last season, collapsing from 2-0 up to go out on a shootout. Min Pritchard starring in goal in the shootout. Free hit for Farrington, free hit for Surbiton. 2:03 left in the game, 1-0. Surbiton lead, 2 minutes I should say, before half time.
And the penalty corner, the difference so far, and I think very obviously Surbiton playing down the right, trying to attack that left-hand side. Hampstead and Westminster, most of their effective circle entries have been down there.
Sutcliffe.
But I sense that there is just a little bit more urgency in the movement ahead of the ball with this Surbiton team.
Well, that was case in point. They were looking to throw the long ball, and eventually the Hampstead and Westminster forwards, Apula was one of them, eventually they were ready, which eventually isn't really quick enough at this level, is it? You've got to be thinking about it before it happens. Williams, he drives, very direct, lovely hands, still going. Williams offloads, what a finish. That is superb. It was made by Williams, it was scored by Nurse, and Surbiton go 2-0 to the good. A fabulous finish. You had just said about Hampstead and Westminster's forwards not being ready, not being clinical, not firing. As soon as Surbiton got the sniff, they get the second goal.
And the captain, Tim Nurse there, leading the way. Lovely finish, flicks high into Reynolds Cottrell's net. But, as you say, that hard work done ahead of that. Brilliant work by Alex Williams. Rode the first challenge just inside the 23. Rode the second challenge on the top of the circle. Managed to play the ball behind those Hampstead defenders. And then drew the keeper. And it was just, natural forwards. Sometimes will shoot from that position, but no, he slips it under his arm, tucks it left, and a brilliant finish.
Both goals have taken a player who we discussed at length earlier out of the equation. Toby Reynolds Cottrell, play it round him, don't play it through him, or don't try and play it through him. Well, there goes the hooter. Surbiton have done A lot of damage to Hampstead and Westminster's chances in that first half. Rushmere scoring with a fabulous option from their first penalty corner to make it 1-0 on 8 minutes. And then the pace and the quality and the unselfishness of Alex Williams slipped the ball to the captain, and Tim Nurse lifted the ball into the empty net to make it 2-0. Surbiton looking very, very good going forward. Hampstead and Westminster offering, but at the moment yet to really connect the dots. Andy, second half, can you see a comeback on the cards?
They just going to have to up their intensity, particularly the running off the ball, ahead of the ball. That's for me has been the difference. The forwards, the leading from the forwards, the clinical nature of the circle entries from Surbiton. You sense they get into the Hampstead and Westminster circle, and it looks like they're going to win a penalty corner. It looks like they're going to score. Whereas for Hampstead and Westminster, it's been, few opportunities, much more clinical running needed ahead of the ball.
Come back to us for the second half as we look to see who the first team in the AHL Men's Premier Division finals will be for 2024. At the moment, it's advantage Surbiton. They lead 2-0 against Hampstead and Westminster. Goals from Rushmere and Nurse at half-time give them a 2-goal lead. Welcome back to Sugden Road, where both Hampstead and Westminster and Surbiton literally mirror each other, walking their way back onto the Sugden Road turf. And at the moment, they're not mirroring each other in the game. Surbiton have a 2-0 lead against Hampstead and Westminster. Rushmere with the first, a well-taken goal from the penalty corner. And then Williams setting up Nurse, a really fabulous goal. But yes, the finish was very, very good. But blimey, was the build-up to the goal good as well from Alex Williams. You said, Andy, how unselfish he was in that build-up to the play. He was also quick and he was also very skillful. He had a lot to do to get to where he got.
He did. He got the ball on the 23 and you could see his intention was, right, I'm going to get into the circle. And there was some technical proficiency there, but it was also sheer brute force that got him in there. And then that tuck under the arm. I think everybody expected him to shoot from there. So, yeah, very unselfish. And a bit of a hammer blow for this Hampstead and Westminster team right on the stroke of half-time.
Well, the two teams re-enter the arena. They're ready to go. 15 minutes back on the clock. Nick Bennett blows his whistle. Surbiton get us back underway. Johnny Gall, an early touch, 2 early touches. The white and green of Surbiton 2. The red and a couple of blues of Hampstead and Westminster 0 at the moment. The sunshine, blustery old day today, but very, very sunny. The sort of day that catches you off guard and you end up with a little bit of a pink forehead, isn't it, Andy, really? We've got cover today. That wasn't a dig. That was not a dig. I mean, generally, you know, pink nose or a pink forehead.
I think, to be fair, I mean, you're doing all 4 games today in here, and we've got a little bit of shade. But certainly, I've been doing a few player interviews and coach interviews, and it after a winter of not too much of this sort of weather, getting out and just protecting my spam is probably, or anybody who is follically challenged as I am.
It's a good commentary position, this, though. It reminds me, actually, as a commentary box of Lee Valley a little bit. Yeah, a little tin hut.
Open to the elements. I thought they were going to water at half-time, actually. The hatches were sort of battened down on the far side, outside the dugouts, but...
Poor ball from Oates. Horrible ball from Oates. And he really caused problems there. And actually caused problems for Gareth Furlong, who gets carded. Tim Cross.
That was really difficult. Gareth Furlong, you see, as he came in there, he knew he couldn't put the brakes on. He thought, but
he had to go for the ball, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm going to get the ball. Am I going to get the ball? No. And as soon as he realised, he sort of took the brakes, tried to apply the brakes, and then green card a bit harsh, do you think, for that?
I think it's harsh only because he was slightly sold down the river. Wasn't he? Yeah. It's one of those, if you stand back and don't go for that, you've got Mark Pern yelling at you, going, what are you doing? We need to win the ball back, especially with where it would have fallen.
It was a teasing ball for a
beautiful aerial from Taylor. Massive. Oh, and now danger. Struan Walker inside the circle. He has the support of Rushmere, but he doesn't have the ball eventually. And Hampstead and Westminster managed to move it away quickly. Hutchinson onwards, collected by Mark Edwards. Edwards just delays, controls, and
I know he's slightly downhill there, Luke Taylor, but that is a full 70-yard aerial he's thrown there.
It's booming.
Circle to circle. Incredible.
Vaughan moves it on to Matthew Geese Brown, who we haven't seen much of today. Good South African drag flicker. Very prolific in a South African shirt recently. Something like 9 goals in his last 6 matches. I'll just dig out the statistics. 12 international goals in his last 6 matches internationally, including in the Paris road to Africa road to Paris, which South Africa, of course, won.
Now that is an impressive 2 goals a game. That's impressive for a defender, but obviously penalty corners.
Yeah, drag flicker, yeah. Had Pro League experience, of course, in the season that South Africa stepped in because Australia and New Zealand took a COVID-enforced breather. Park eyes up. I haven't seen as much of him today.
Oh, again, I mean, somebody whose international career has really flourished in the last 18 months. Well, that's given away.
Oates moves the ball on quickly. Nicely done by Krausen. Very good tackle. And then through steps Edwards once more. Buckle having to get back.
Well played, Connor Williamson there. The way he just tied it up in the circle there, got a strong forehand on that, and straight away just played out towards right half.
Oates, lovely from Kepler. Great indoor player. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned that so far, Andy. He's a very good indoor player.
I'm under strict instructions, Dan.
Not to
Probably
mention
from you
indoor
and many
outside
others.
of January.
Yeah,
That's it.
We're past that now.
Yeah.
Having
It's
just come
only
from the
allowed a
World
month.
Masters indoor hockey competition where there were
Oh, you pulled a stint there, didn't you?
230 games in 5 days. I think not all. I think I did about 32, but
Just 32
hell
in
of an
5 days.
event. Hell of an event up in Nottingham.
Krausen. Mazzarello was watchful, was guarded.
Yeah, my first introduction to Masters hockey at World Masters Hockey, and goodness me, over 80 teams all converged for an indoor tournament in Nottingham. Amazing. And I think, also worth mentioning the other competitions that are going on today up in Nottingham. The youth.
I thought you were talking about the Ancient Grand National, which had my I was going straight to Iron Maximus. Gladiators entering the arena, and Iron Maximus has won up in Liverpool. The Irish dominator. Oh, no, you're not talking about that, are you, Andy?
Your ability to juggle different sports at the same time is amazing, Dan.
Passion makes you do funny things.
I know how much I thought you might have had an impact on the programme today, so that
I wish I had that level of power.
See the Grand National.
Yeah, sadly not. Lost money on it as well. Gittins. Excellent tackle. Moving forward, Hal Jones, Welsh International, wins the free hit off Gittins as well, who just has a bit to say afterwards.
I think that was a really good tackle from Hal Jones. I thought the way that it could have been a stick tackle, but he took the ball really cleanly.
Brendan Creed, body position against his opposite number, Josh Kelly, there was just sublime. He just made sure that his frame was not for moving. That's a very, very good tackle indeed by Joe Sharp. And collected and moved on by Dale Hutchinson, eyes up.
Again, it's that carry from Tim Nurse down the right, trying to get into the circle, and very much Surbiton's attack is really right side focused.
Very much a London Welsh group of players running through this match today in the semi-final. A number of Welsh internationals playing. More for Hampstead and Westminster than for Surbiton, but still.
And I think going back to what you were saying right at the beginning of the game, Dan, it's really worth, the plaudits that have to go to Welsh hockey around the way that, I know we've spoken about the coaching of Danny Newcombe. But
that's
also,
a great take. What a take from Jones.
Zach Jones before him, and the way they've set this Welsh team up, and obviously Cardiff coming into the National League as well, Premier Division. I think Welsh hockey is in a really good place at the moment. There he goes, a proper indoor tackle there. I know I didn't mention it, but Buckle getting really low on that backhand, and the strength there.
Creed. Williamson. Lovely ball. Not overly powerful, but just brilliantly delivered. And Surbiton, there's a swing and a miss from Guy Brown.
You can see all Farrington was looking to do there was just try and get that ball onto a foot, draw the defender in.
Over the shoulder of Josh Kelly, but he was in the same space as Brendan Creed.
I think you mentioned the first half about Brendan Creed's development, and I knew there was something I was going to say at the time. I think there was attacking option came from it at the time. But you know, I was very much part of around the early part of his development when he was at junior level. And what a lot of people don't know is that, you know, he came on the scene, I think, as a 17, 18-year-old coming through the age group programs, and then got a really serious back injury, which took him out the game. I think it must have been for a couple of years. And to come back, and you know, he's had his challenges off the pitch, but to come back and now be such an established player at international level and highly respected player around the world, I think, you know, he has achieved so much.
Alex Williams here is just starting to get a little bit frustrated. He's turned around with a smile on his face now, but just noticing a sort of muttering comment under his breath at one of the umpires moments ago in front of us, and then just getting a little bit frustrated. Tim Cross playing it cool and making sure he's staying on the right side of Barstow.
I think he was lucky to stay on the pitch there, because from our angle, and I'm not sure Dan Barstow, penalty corner.
Penalty corner. Mazzarello helmet off as he sees his defensive unit head off behind the goal to put the protective gear on. Hampstead and Westminster with a great opportunity here. 5 minutes 40 to go in the third quarter.
Yeah, back to that Alex Williams. He stopped Hampstead and Westminster from playing. For me, it was a breakdown. Stop them playing. Stop them getting that counter-attack opportunity. And I'm not sure that Dan Barstow saw it like that, and I think he's quite lucky to have stayed on the pitch at that point.
Edwards is there lining up. Sam French is there lining up. Goose Brown is there lining up. Options. It will be Goose Brown. Good save, Mazzarello. Picked up again by Morgan. And then Mazzarello will have been delighted. He gets a fist pump off Connor Williamson.
I thought James Mazzarello was on a trampoline there, having made that save and then gone to ground and literally bounced back. You know, I'm going to have to ask Mace what they're putting in pads these days.
Struan Walker. Oh, now Reynolds Cottrell was worried and watchful there, but he saw the ball just ruffle into the side of the netting. Be ready for a long answer from Simon Mason. If you're going to ask him questions like that, that'll be a good 10-minute conversation. Don't be in a rush when you ask Mason, because he's very passionate about his pads.
Yep.
And he'll give you a very detailed.
How will it help you, Simon, bounce back up off the ground? But,
he's rushed off to play a game.
Yes.
Been here earlier on. French. Mazzarello saves again. And then it's in. And it's really well taken. Josh Kelly, I believe it is, with the goal.
I think Surbiton not happy with that. Not quite sure what they were unhappy about, but it's good second phase play after that initial save. In fact, it was a double save from Mazzarello, but the third follow-up. And as we've seen already today, a 2-0 lead is nothing in these games.
Just waiting for the exact confirmation of who scored it. Looking around, I think it may be Krausen instead of Kelly. I will wait for confirmation of that one because we haven't got a replay, sadly, and it will happen very, very quickly. The player just in front as well. And now, look at how Hampstead and Westminster have their tails up. Oates across him. Across goes Krausen. Mazzarello darts out to block the run.
They couldn't, could they? Having seen their women do the same this morning, go 2 goals down, come back, force a shootout, get a win against the reigning champions and into the final tomorrow.
It was Josh Kelly who scored. I doubted myself, but it has been credited to the number 18. Now Gittins is down clutching his knee. Cross is...
Yeah. Mark Edwards being given a green card there for that challenge. Gittins, lovely little tuck inside and drawing that challenge from Mark Edwards, who's 2-minute suspension. A little unhappy with that decision. I think the way he ran away from that tackle, I think he knew would be my...
Get away from the umpire as quick as you possibly can.
Me?
I want nothing to be done with this. It wasn't me.
It wasn't.
Smile.
It wasn't a very good challenge, that one.
Buckle looks for Furlong. Gareth Furlong just manoeuvring the ball down the left-hand side, where Nurse got just caught out slightly by Krausen, and then goes on a dancing run and wins a penalty corner. And hasn't Tim Nurse led this Surbiton team superbly today?
I think it's the first time they've attacked down the left, you know, thinking, and Tim Nurse, the carry, wonderful 3D skills to carry there with real pace, and then just drawing the defender in.
Of course, they scored earlier from their first penalty corner from Rushmit.
Yes, now then, if it ain't broke, so will they go for the same routine?
Furlong's there. Paul Revington watching on, he's thinking, stick this one in, help out my cause internationally. Taylor's there as well, he can flick. Struan Walker waits on the left-hand side. When it comes, it will be Gareth Furlong. Oh, lovely. He's gone to the right-hand side as he looked. The left-hand kicker of Reynolds Cottrell into the roof of the net. And Furlong does the damage to extend Surbiton's lead.
Yeah, the power coming through the whole body there, the ball stepping in, the ball behind him, and then really getting a turn on that and throwing that in that awkward, really awkward position for a goalkeeper, sort of just above kicker level. Not sure whether he got the touch or the defender got the touch on the line, but the power on that, and the ball flies high into the roof of the net. And just when we thought Hampstead and Westminster were dragging themselves back into this game, Surbiton have got that 2-goal cushion back.
Bouncing ball across Mazzarello. Down low. Question asked quickly by Hal Jones. So here's a question for you, Andy. We're 1:44 left. You're Paul Revington for a moment, and Paris is looming large. And Gareth Furlong has been playing well, but who do you drop him for? Where do you take? There's no doubt that if Bandrak and Ward are back fit and okay, you have to play them with their stats as they are. But there's no doubting having a third drag flicker of Furlong's quality will add something to that team. But where does he fit within the balance of the squad?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a head scratcher.
I'd rather you ask me one on geography, to be honest. I think it's a difficult, very difficult question. And, you know, I would hate to be in Revs' shoes. Well, I'd love to be in Revs' shoes, you know, coaching a team going to the Olympic Games. But those headaches, those decisions that you make, and I know in the past, quite often coaches will look at the stats. The stats don't lie, so they'll look at, you know, the number of penalty corners flicked, but also the impact. It's not just about the corners. You know, the things that come into selection. You've got to have a really robust defensive penalty corner routine as well. So, you know, folk like Brendan Creed, Liam Sanford, who are brilliant number one runners, you know, that also comes into the equation. So there is so much to think about. And as you say, you know, that balance.
The other thing to say is you've got him as a strong reserve, and just heading in, you know, injuries can happen. You never want them to happen, but that's a fair old reserve to step in terms of your attacking penalty corner unit. And as I say, adding that to Ward and Bandrak, especially with the way Ward is flicking, the way Bandrak can hit a ball, you're giving yourself a triple trade, essentially, aren't you? The Hooter goes 3-1 Surbiton lead. Hampstead and Westminster a long way back with a quarter to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of conversation that we could. I find it so interesting that the makeup of an international hockey team, but then when you add in, you know, the fact that you've now got 18 players, rolling substitutions, you know, how many penalty corner specialists you have, how long your penalty corner specialists are on the pitch. So if it's a forward, so if you've got, for example, you know, Ward and Bandrak playing opposite each other as forwards, so you've always got a flicker on the pitch. You know, those sorts of things.
They try and play them on as much as they can together as well to give that double team element, which the best teams in the world are doing. If you look at the stats at the moment, all the best teams have got 2 goal scorers from the top of the circle. Harmanpreet and Jugraj. Govers and Edwards. Edwards has been in cracking form this week against India in Perth in Australia. Is the conversation I'm getting to, which you realise is it something slightly different to go, hang on, let's give ourselves 3 options? But as you said, balance. Where does
It is.
and does it unbalance the squad as a
And
whole?
also, what do they give on the pitch as well?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
You've obviously got the corner. But I think the other added thing with an Olympic Games, the element that you get with an Olympics, which is slightly different to others, around the fact that, you know, you have your 16 players, but then you've got your 2, as they call, peer-credited athletes, who are the ones they're in the village with the team, and you know they can be brought in at any time, but for any sort of game, and there is now that as we approach this Games. I know that they relaxed the rules before Tokyo, and there were some countries who would name a 16 for a certain game, and it would be a different 16 out of the 18.
Yep.
Danny Kerry at the time made the decision to just say, no, this is the squad we've selected, we go with it. And again, that's arguably, you know, that's a discussion that needs to be had. Do we know that is going to be the case at the Olympic Games this year? I'm not sure that we do yet.
Because I've forgotten to check.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something we can...
My gut feeling at the Olympic level is, with the length of the tournament, the quality of the tournament, a squad of 18 with 2 goalkeepers is an absolute must. At the level hockey is played at now, I personally would say I don't understand a squad of 16. I know back you were involved in the build-up to it. Rio, Sam Ward was the backup goalkeeper, essentially, wasn't he? He was practicing with the pads on. We had
and James Tyndall before him for 2012.
We had Sumit in goal for India not long ago in the Pro League, and that was actually because Krishan Patak was off celebrating the birth of his first child. Slightly different reasoning, but I sent a slightly tongue-in-cheek message to Craig Fulton in the background saying, was that with one eye on Paris? Was that? Yeah. This is a strategy, scenario planning, which I know you'll be a big fan of scenario planning.
Yes, of course, and I've seen through 3 Olympic cycles, you know, it plays on the head coach's mind. Because obviously, if you don't have the rules have now been changed, so there is a substitute goalkeeper who is outside the village, and you know George Pinner did that job in Tokyo. Goodness me, and James Bailey in Rio. That is tough. You know, you're on your own. You're not with the squad. You're staying in Team GB accommodation that's away from the Olympic Village. It is really, really difficult, and there are so many things. It's not just about selecting 16 or 18 players for the Olympic Games. There's so much else. You know, your 17, 18 have got to be folk who great team players, you know, really good team players, because if you do go to the Olympics as a 17 or 18, and depending on what happens this year, and you are a reserve, you know, again, 2 weeks at Olympic Games, you're not even going to play. It's tough. It really is tough. So much more to think about than just having a cornflake.
Can't even enjoy the chocolate eclairs and the baguettes and vin rouge of Paris either. You know, you've got to keep yourself in peak physical condition. Luckily, Andy, not necessarily the case for us in the comms box, which is, I'm aiming that myself, not at you. Forward the ball goes. Lovely pick up by Jolyon Morgan, who's played really well today.
I shall be out there this year in Paris, but in a slightly different role, working in a security role with Team GB, which I'm looking forward to, balancing both my careers in the police service and also working with international hockey teams.
Ball played for by Nick Park, picked up by Oates. Lifts the ball and Barstow offers Rushmere the free hit. Well, Rushmere's really annoyed at Nick Bennett there, but that was at least 3 or 4 metres away from where the indiscretion happened, and it was also outside the 23 that he took the ball on from.
And he took 2 players out of the game by taking it there as well. And whilst we're all for flowing hockey, if it is an unfair advantage, which I feel that was, to Hampstead and Westminster.
Good pace from Rushmere. Nick Bennett just watchfully gives the free hit Hampstead and Westminster way. He came into the Valencia Olympic qualifier relatively late, I think. Nick Bennett is a web designer, runs a web design business actually, which was partly why he could go and do that work, because he runs his own business, could work and umpire for the, 10 days of the Olympic qualifiers. Tim Cross. Tell you what, I've not seen many prouder parents than Tim Cross's mother at the Olympic qualifiers when her son had secured a spot for Ireland at Paris. She was over from Melbourne. tackle from Gittins.
And a fairly chastening experience for them in preparation out in India. Their Pro League experience, but I'm sure they will be much, much better for that.
I think frustration from Mark Jamalti came in that the performances, attacking-wise, were defensively. They put in some phenomenal displays. 1-0 against India in India and they Gurjant scoring with seconds or minutes to play was, you know, phenomenal. But it was the lack of Irish bite going forward that I think frustrated Mark Jamalti. Down the line it goes and stick blocking.
Yeah, I think I did a couple of those games with you in the Pro League games, and I think it was certainly a mark of going away from that trip. They've got to find a way. If they're going to get some success in Paris in the summer, they've got to find a way to score some goals, definitely. So you feel that Hampstead and Westminster's purple patch, Surbiton have responded.
So I just had confirmation for Paris, it is 16. Absolutely, 16 players in the squad.
Okay.
From a very good source. Very, very good source is all I'll say.
Okay.
So confirmed, 16 in the squad.
Somebody listening?
Watching.
Okay.
I'm not going to name names. Lovely aerial again. From
Would their initials be Sierra Whiskey by any chance?
No.
Okay. Talk phonetic alphabet. Okay, well that's interesting. Yeah, 16. But I think the interesting thing for me will be whether or not the 17, 18 are effectively reserves, or whether for each game they can choose 16 from the 18, because that will make a difference.
Mark Edwards gets things going again. 8:57 left. Surbiton 3. The goals from Rushmere Nurse and Furlong from the penalty corner. Really nicely taken penalty corner, and the goal from Josh Kelly from the team from Central London. Play at Paddington Rec. Just down the road from Maida Vale, of course. Lovely part of London.
They'll be very proud having both clubs here, both men's and women's teams at this event, and you know, a club with great history. I can remember when they were Hampstead Hockey Club. Oh, and
that's a shove in the back, surely. No.
I wonder whether Gittins just stepped in to almost draw that foul there, but yeah, there was a knowing smile as he ran away there.
Lovely pick up from Williams into the circle. He goes to the baseline, pops it back. Does he find a boot? Well, Reynolds Cottrell didn't know where the ball was for a moment, and away just about comes Toby Vaughan, and just about come Hampstead and Westminster. Alex Williams again causing problems, and again unselfish.
And again going into that right-hand side of the circle. They're obviously a ploy for Surbiton here.
Williamson plays the ball back to Buckle, gets the ball back again.
Yeah, it's quite an incredible story, the Hampstead one. You know, particularly around their base, the Carlton Tavern, which has obviously been there many, many years.
Been there for a few years.
And they knocked it down, and you know, and they were going to turn it into flats, I believe, and haven't got planning permission.
Yeah.
So, and I believe, from what I hear, I'm trying to think who it was. When they knocked it down, his goalkeeping kit was still in the basement. I'm trying to think. It'll come to me.
When
It'll
did they
come
knock it
to
down?
me. We are looking at probably 10 years ago, something like that.
I think I played there 15 or 20 ago.
Yeah.
Reading and Loughborough I played there for.
So obviously the pitch in the Paddington Recreation Ground, but then the pavilion, if
Just
you like, their
over the way,
base
wasn't
was
it?
just over the way at the pub. And yeah, I can picture him now, the goalkeeper. But he said, yeah, they knocked the pub down, and I didn't even realise my goalkeeping kit was in the basement.
I'm paraphrasing now. I think Charlie Broom used to play for Hampstead and Westminster Ones in National League. Very well-known voice and very good friend on commentary. Hello to Charlie if you're listening in. He's just been on holiday, so I don't think he will be. I think he's away, sunning himself. Excellent ball forward, picked up by Sam Apula.
That's better. That is much better from Hampstead and Westminster.
Into the circle, Capella. Nicely done. Nick Park again. Finds Struan Walker. Look at Park's pace down the right-hand side. Look at how quickly he's up and he's free. Walker can't find him. But that is how quick Nick Park can be. Old boy of Henley College. And I tell you what, speaking to some teachers from Henley College about a year ago, they are glowing about the fact that Nick Park's a Great Britain hockey player now. Into the circle.
And look at that jump, there's a great... Do you see the jump back from him there? So he's absolutely legged it 60 yards, but he's managed to get a stick in there. And you could see how much it was hurting as he was jumping back. And is he going to join this attack? No, I'm looking at him in the middle of the pitch. Probably not.
Walker, great opportunity on the reverse, puts it away. Bottom right-hand corner as he looked. Struan Walker shows why he's scored so many goals in this league. Goes alongside Beeston's Henry Croft, who can do no more in goal-scoring terms. That was all about hard work and attrition, and then the finishing touch of Struan Walker.
Yeah, and I used Nick Park's example there of, you know, what an absolutely fantastic finish from Walker. But it was the work that was done before that in the Surbiton midfield. Incredible. What a finish. Yeah, great finish from Walker, and no chance. No chance for Reynolds Cottrell.
Joe Sharp. Back to Sam French, who I thought started the game really, really brightly, but he just seems to have drifted out of it. And Hampstead and Westminster, I can't see from here another Hampstead and Westminster comeback like we saw earlier on. Buckle. Williams, lovely little offload. Good interplay from Surbiton here. They've looked very good for their 4-1 lead. Johnny Galt helping himself. Infield it goes to Rushmere, who of course opened the scoring on 8 minutes.
What was good there, that little drop pass. So twice we saw that. We call it a guard pass when we're coaching, where you actually, if it's looking like a 1-on-3 or a 1-on-4 ahead of you with the ball, you just look to drop the ball and then get ahead of it, so that you end up attacking with a more chance of success. And there's a brilliant aerial thrown 50 yards from Guys Brown.
Cross, whistle goes. Alex Williams had stepped across. It was given Hampstead's well. Kepler nearly got that all wrong and literally handed it back on a plate to Williams. Good original tackle and then just side-footing it out of play.
You sense that Surbiton have always been in control of this game, and despite Hampstead and Westminster getting that 1 goal back and maybe 2 or 3 minutes thinking they might get back into this,
Park finds Rushmere.
They've never really had to hit anything ahead of sort of 4th gear, this Surbiton lineup.
They've been pushed harder than the Surbiton women were earlier against Wimbledon. I felt Surbiton women didn't really get out of 2nd or 3rd gear. But as you say, I don't think we've seen this men's Surbiton team at absolutely, you know, chugging in top gear here. But equally, they haven't had an easy game. And we mentioned about what James Oates' impact would be in the game. What Surbiton have done is contain him in the main. Sam French down the right-hand side, trying to find a way past Brendan Creed, the 2nd tackler, and Struan Walker, the 1st. Offload by Toby Vaughan. Gets the ball back and gets his eyes forward. Works as a senior flood risk manager, so he's going to have had a busy time professionally recently. Especially near the area that Great Britain train in as well. Well, around here too, it's near the Thames, of course. It's like the taps have been turned on recently, isn't it?
Interesting, flood risk manager. That's I've not heard of a hockey player with that occupation before.
Oh, there's one in the women's. I can't remember, I can't dig my notes out now, but there was another one playing earlier on today. Park. Lovely little interplay, and at the moment Surbiton are just going through the motions, eating away the clock. Connor Williamson, how well has he played today? He just looks a class apart to me in terms of his comfort on the ball. As Guy Sprout collects. Farrington gets a barge.
Does well there with his backhand, Rob Farrington.
Poor Sam Corney. Doesn't have his name on the back of his shirt. Pops up off Hutchinson, and another penalty corner going Surbiton's way. Mark Pern beckons Williamson over to tell him what the routine should be.
The interchange has been really good from Surbiton. The way that they've given the ball, they've led through. Somebody else has dropped into the position. You know, the way that the 3 and the 4 at the back with Williamson in that little pocket in front. The way they've interchanged has been top notch, really good, and frankly, Hampstead and Westminster haven't really had an answer to that. But and with 1:21,
Final match of the day will start in 57 minutes' time from now. Old Georgians against Wimbledon. Can Surbiton make it 5-1? Taylor hit the on-rushing Oates, who hobbles his way to the 23, looking beleaguered and bruised and battered. And he hobbles his way back to do it all over again.
of course, it's such a...
Dan Barstow is asked by James Oates to assist Nick Bennett, who just stands motionless in his belief that... You can see Oates saying it was too high,
I'm not sure it was. To me, it looked... You limp differently if you get hit above the knee, if you know what I mean by that.
Also stop quicker.
Yes.
Taylor again. Wide of the mark. Wasteful that time. 4-1. 1 minute, 4 seconds left. Surbiton
Tends to throw most of his corners low there, Luke Taylor. And,
so that 8-2 aggregate score becomes 12-3 if things stay as they are. Not that the aggregate matters, but it also means Hampstead and Westminster don't upset the form. Sam French, industrious as ever on the reverse stick. Crabbing and tackling well Corney, the youngster. That's a huge aerial height-wise. Farrington, I think, lost it in the cloud because it pretty much came down through the cloud.
He was sort of the player that was set under there, but
Oates runs the ball out of play, and that kind of sums up Hampstead and Westminster's latter part of the game. Well, domineering in the end for Surbiton. Talk about doing a job. They did it and some, and they started, Andy, in beautiful fashion, working the ball out from that first penalty corner for Rushmere to score.
Yeah, clinical finish, that early strike. And you feel that throughout the game, they just provided more threat. Their aerial threat, the ability to throw the ball 60, 70 yards from the back and actually land it on an attacker was out there. But also their attack down the right, the pace that this Surbiton team bring, you know, with Tim Nurse and Stuart Rushmere out there, the pace they bring to it, fantastic. So for me, that is a fairly comfortable, I think we mentioned in the commentary, didn't we, that obviously from a going through the gears perspective, have they hit top gear? I don't think they have yet. They're going to save that for tomorrow. But for them, you know, the big thing, we mentioned it right at the beginning, is they're in Europe next year with that victory.
Tim Nurse, of course, scored the second after Alex Williams had shown pace and quality and then an unselfishness, which not many players have, to be honest, in that way, and made sure Nurse could finish off. Made it 2-0. Then Josh Kelly made it 2-1 for Hampstead and Westminster. Was a comeback on the cards in the way that Hampstead and Westminster women came back at East Grinstead earlier on and ultimately won the shootout, getting their place in the final. No, it wasn't, because Gareth Furlong stepped up, ripped the flick home off the pads of Reynolds Cottrell, and then Struan Walker finishing beautifully into the bottom right-hand corner as he looks. James Gall wanders his way out onto the pitch to be part of the celebrations, currently sidelined with injury. An impressive performance from Surbiton. More for the home crowd to cheer. They will have two teams in the finals tomorrow, and as Andy, they said, Surbiton securing one of those spots in Europe for next season. Who will they face in the final? It will be Old Georgians or it will be Wimbledon Hockey Club. We wait to see. It's been an impressive performance from Surbiton, an impressive performance from their captain Tim Nurse, and they take it in the end 4-1. We just have one spot remaining up for grabs in the AHL Men's Premier Division's Final 2024. Join us at 5:45.